Nami came out of the sand screaming without a mouth. Skin sealed over her face, tight and smooth like stretched latex. But the sound still came, loud, wet, raw, as if her lungs weren't hers anymore. We were on the surface less than 11 minutes when it started. The soil on R-Gamma-6 was supposed to be sterile, dry. A failed terraforming attempt, abandoned after the colony signal flatlined 7 years ago. But it wasn't dry. It breathed, just low enough you wouldn't notice unless your boots stayed planted too long. The kind of breath that shifts heat sideways, like exhalation through gills. Nami was the first to dig. We'd picked up a cluster of faint vitals pulsing beneath the crust. Rhythmic, irregular, just enough to suggest buried survivors. I told her to scan first, but she dropped to her knees and pushed both hands into the dirt. Not sand. It was too moist, too warm. I remember the look on her face as her elbows vanished. Not surprise, not fear. Something worse. Recognition. When she was pulled back up, she wasn't the same. Her suit was torn at the wrists, forearms smeared with pinkish gel that glistened like snail trails. Her skin was flushed, tight, not swollen, but filled, like she'd been inflated from inside. Her helmet was gone. Her face was blank. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just a smooth field of living skin drawn over everything. And still, the scream poured out. The sound wasn't right. It wasn't a vocal cord sound. It came from deep inside, like it was being pumped through tissue, forced out through layers of living filter. It vibrated in my stomach. Osei vomited. Thiel ran. I froze. I kept thinking, she can't be breathing. There's no way she's breathing. But her chest rose, slowly, rhythmically. The scream had a tempo, and her rib cage matched it. Then she collapsed, and the dirt beneath her body folded inward like fabric tugged by suction. Not a sinkhole, a gesture, controlled, as if the ground wanted to take her back, but gently this time. Thiel tried to grab her ankle, but the moment he touched the soil, his fingers wrinkled. 5 seconds. That's all it took. His bones didn't break. They shrunk, like his skeleton was being edited for entry. We marked the zone and backed off. My scanner showed 5 more vital sources, deep but active. All in a pattern, not random. A ring, like they'd been placed. I ran diagnostics. No mechanical interference, no signal loops. These were live. Whatever was down there was still pumping blood, still pulsing heat, still processing. Command had told us there were no survivors, that all structures had been pulled from orbit after Terra failure. But we passed 6 identical impact craters, spaced evenly, each one oozing the same translucent fluid along the edges. The gel evaporated on contact with air, leaving behind a smell like antiseptic and meat. I followed one streak back to its origin and found a torn flag of the colony's medical division, soaked and half-absorbed into the earth. Osei found the first pod. We thought it was a buried escape capsule, until we noticed the casing wasn't metal. It was dermal. The outer layer bore fingerprints, not on the surface, inside, pressed outward. 10 digits, a mouth shape. Then another, smaller set below, like something tried to escape. And something else tried to pull it back in. I asked for containment foam. I got silence. Osei had walked too far out toward the rim. He was on comms. He was fine. And then he wasn't. His vitals blinked red for a moment, then locked at baseline. Normalized, stabilized. But he wasn't responding, just standing there. I zoomed in with optics and saw his chest rising, too slow for lungs. as if he was being breathed through. The soil near him started to split, not crack, dilate. Soft ridges opening like tissue under pressure, revealing a glossy black interior lined with fine hair and twitching pink folds. I shouted for him to move. He didn't even blink. Then I saw the back of his suit buckle outward, something pushing against the spine plate. I could hear the metal creak. His arms rose, not in panic, but in offering. And then the ridge swallowed him whole. No blood, no struggle, just acceptance. I called command. No signal, not even static, just silence, as if the atmosphere had become non-reflective. Thael said he saw movement under the dune line. He wasn't lying. Something was breathing down there, deep and slow, with intervals too steady for weather and too warm for tectonic shifts. I placed my hand to the sand. It pulsed, like a throat beneath skin. I thought maybe we could back out, leave a probe, mark the coordinates, but then we saw her again. Nami, standing, 20 meters from the drop zone, still sealed, still featureless, but she raised her hand, waved, turned her body exactly like a drill alignment gesture, a coded signal we used during lunar entry. Then she pointed to the ground in front of her, and something under the dirt mirrored the motion. Not just copied, predicted it. The ground didn't collapse. It inhaled. And on the exhale, I heard my own voice whisper back, "You're late, Sorel. We've been waiting inside the skin." We didn't leave. I don't know why. Every protocol said, abort, leave a probe, extract data remotely. But none of us moved. Thael said we had no fuel margin, but I checked the gauge. Full. Ose was marked KIA in the HUD, but his vitals still pulsed green, as if the system itself had decided he was stable. Nami was no longer on the grid. No ping, no echo. Just the lingering warmth of her handprint inside my visor. I don't know when she touched me. I don't remember her getting that close. We moved east toward the ridgeline. The ground grew firmer, smoother, not compacted, processed. Every footstep was matched with a soft contraction just beneath the surface, like walking across a sleeping organism trying not to wake. The heat changed too, not hotter, deeper, as if the sun wasn't the only source, as if something underneath was warming upward, toward us. Thael tried to scan for internal structures. The scanner glitched, flipped his internal body map upside down. His organs were still there, but inverting. His lungs overlapped the pelvis, his spine curved in a mirrored arc. He laughed, said it was a software error. But I saw the vein in his temple twitch with every laugh. It didn't stop twitching, even after the humor faded. The first whisper came when I said his name. Sorel. But I hadn't said it yet. It came 2 seconds early. Then again, from the ground. Then inside my own helmet. My lips didn't move, but the sound looped back into my ears. 3 tones, same inflection. On the 4th, it switched to my mother's voice. Then my own again, but younger, like the system beneath us was rehearsing. Sampling tones before settling on the version that fit. Thael didn't seem to notice. I didn't tell him. We reached the remains of a drop shuttle. Not ours, old design. First wave colonists. The hull was buried halfway in the ridge, split open like a peeled fruit. Inside, we found 6 cryopods, all open, all clean, not empty, licked clean. The walls inside the pods bore imprints, spines, knees, nails digging inward. Desperate motion frozen in reverse. No bodies, no signs of rot. Just one boot, folded neatly on the floor, filled with fingernails. I turned away, and the air changed. I could smell my room from the medical deck back home. Crisp linen, iodine. For a moment, I felt safe, until I turned back and saw my own bed, sunken into the terrain, and beneath the pillow, a lump. Breathing. Thiel bent to examine the soil. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. I could feel the message in my own throat before he said it. "It's cartilage," he whispered. I knew the word. I tasted it. The grit on his gloves wasn't rock. It was organic filler, grown to simulate sediment but capable of micropulse alignment. A thinking floor. Not sentient. That would be easier. Responsive. Engineered to adapt its form to whatever touches it long enough. We were standing on a field of learned anatomy, and it was learning us. I felt my calf twitch. Just a spasm, but it synced with the pulse underfoot. When I stepped back, the pulse hesitated, as if uncertain, then adjusted. My next step was heavier. My muscles contracted without command. I checked my vitals. Heart rate 44 BPM, too low. But the readout showed 66. Something was feeding alternate data into my suit, syncing my internal signals to an external rhythm. I opened comms to Thiel, but he was already moving, walking straight, steady, face blank. I followed. Ahead, a dome, seamless, bone-colored, partially submerged. No seams, no entry. But I knew how to open it. The knowledge wasn't mine. It arrived like a forgotten memory. Elbow down, palm inward, press twice. I did it. The dome opened. Inside, walls of soft, semi-translucent membrane. Lights embedded in the tissue pulsed in a slow rotation. The air was heavy, sweet, like overripe fruit left in warm plastic. A table stood in the center, not metal. Fungal mass reinforced with bone struts. On it, 6 objects wrapped in clear sheath. As I stepped closer, I saw they were mouths, each sculpted in expression. Scream, grin, whisper, sleep. All different. All human. Thiel touched one. It spoke his name, then his name again, but older. Then his name with my voice. Then silence. He stepped back. I didn't. The last mouth was shaped in my own profile. Lips parted. Breathing, slow and real. I leaned in, and it whispered, "There's room for you still." I turned to call Thiel, but he wasn't behind me anymore. Only an impression in the membrane wall. Arms spread. Head turned sideways, still warm. The walls didn't echo. They absorbed. Every step I took was swallowed. Not sonically, but physically. The floor compressed just enough to suggest intention. The passage curved without symmetry, not built, but grown. I ran my hand along the membrane. Warm, damp, with a faint elasticity that pulled back slightly, like muscle resisting casual contact. There was no metal, no plastic, just flesh and memory. I found the first one near the hollowed atrium beneath a dome of semi-luminescent tissue. He was suspended in a vertical cradle, not lying, not sitting. His skin was intact, his suit half fused into the wall behind him, threads of material merging with vascular cables along the surface. His eyes were open, not blinking, not following, but aware. His name tag said, Dr. Arvin Kyle, colonization team, presumed dead. Not dead. He was breathing. Barely. The rise and fall of his chest was artificial, assisted. A thin tube snaked into his neck, pulsing in time with the light from the ceiling. I leaned closer. His lips parted. No sound, just a faint mist, moist and sweet. I turned on my mic, listened carefully, and the words came not from his mouth, but from the fluid inside. I never left. Then again, I never left. And then another voice, my voice, saying the same thing, in reverse. Around him were dozens more. Men, women, suits torn open and regrown over time. Some still moved, slight twitches. Others showed signs of recent feeding, liquid sacs beside the head, emptying in slow rhythm. Their veins pulsed in tandem. The wall behind them throbbed faintly with each inhalation. They weren't being kept alive. They were being used as terminals. Information passed through their nervous systems like biocircuitry. I could see bursts of light ripple across the membrane whenever one of them twitched, like nodes in a web. They weren't hosts. They were infrastructure. I whispered one of their names, Kellen, and half a second later, another whispered it back behind me. Same tone, same breath, but no one else was there. I turned a corner and entered a chamber shaped like a heart. Not symbolically, anatomically. It beat, slowly. The walls flexed with low compression. The air was heavy with metabolic heat. Across the chamber, an arch of exposed bone framed a pit of dark, shimmering fluid. I stepped forward. The surface rippled. Inside, I saw myself. Not a reflection, a version, younger, wearing a uniform I hadn't seen since training. She blinked, raised a hand, then froze, mid-motion. Her skin peeled back slightly at the cheek, revealing pulsing lines of growing tissue behind the eye. She wasn't real. She was being printed. A noise behind me, slick, wet, made me turn. Another figure walking with twisted feet. Bent backward at the knees, one arm extended, index finger curled upward in a gesture of silence. It looked like Thiel, but his face was distorted. Not melted, not wounded. Misremembered. His smile was too wide. His voice was mine again. This is where we keep what's useful. I backed away, but the floor pushed forward, subtly. The membrane thickened behind me, curving upward around my legs. Not trapping, guiding. I forced a deep breath. My lungs resisted, then expanded beyond their limit. The inhale wasn't air, it was input. And suddenly, I was remembering things I had never lived. My childhood, but in reverse. My mother's voice, but calling someone else's name. A man I never met, pulling me from water I'd never entered. Every memory twisted just enough to be uncanny. Like the structure was constructing a self-model, and I was the template it couldn't finish without direct access. I reached for my scanner, but it was gone. No sound, no break, just absence. And when I looked back at the fluid pit, my reflection was smiling. I wasn't. She tilted her head inside the liquid, my head, and mouthed, "You're not here yet." But the skin remembers. Then the surface pulled her under, and I felt the pull behind my own eyes. I stepped back from the fluid, but the ripple followed. Not a surface reaction, a response. My muscles tightened in anticipation, and the membrane underfoot pulsed with the same rhythm. It wasn't copying my fear. It was synchronizing with it, learning the chemical pattern, predicting the spike. The temperature rose slightly, just enough for sweat to form behind my knees. And in the corner of the chamber, something began to echo that tremor. To my left, one of the figures stirred. Only its mouth moved, or tried to. The lips pulled open as if on puppet strings, revealing a jaw packed with something not quite teeth. Smooth, translucent nodes. They vibrated at a pitch I couldn't hear, but felt in the enamel of my molars. Then it said a word I hadn't spoken in years. Volther, the name of the child I lost in an atmospheric breach. No one here could have known that. I turned sharply, not to run, but to escape that memory. And the wall inhaled. It pulled in the air I displaced. Not just volume, but signal. It tasted what I was trying to forget. As I moved toward the exit arch, the tissue lining its curve flickered with my memories. Stuttering loops of faces, rooms, failure logs. All corrupted just enough to feel wrong. Like a dream that keeps replaying itself with the ending erased. I pressed my hand to the opening. It didn't push back. It accepted. For a second, I thought I was free. But then my fingers sunk in too easily. The surface yielded. I tried to pull away, but the print remained glowing in the wall, pulsing on its own. It wasn't just reading me anymore. It was storing, logging, preparing a version of me for something else. Behind me, the chamber began to whisper. Not with one voice, with many, all mine, speaking different choices. None I remember making. The corridor didn't lead out. It bent, curved sideways, then downward, then into itself, like a spinal column folding to close a wound. I followed because my legs kept moving, not because I chose. Each step matched the pulse underfoot, which now beat faster, deeper, resonating in my joints. I tasted iron in my throat. My ears popped. Somewhere behind my eyes, something opened. I passed a mirror. Not a mirror. A wall with light embedded so precisely it simulated my reflection. But the image was wrong. My suit was intact. My face was calm. My lips were moving, but I wasn't speaking. And behind the false version of me stood two others, one wearing my old academy uniform, the other nude and wet, blinking in a rhythm I couldn't match. The wall blurred them together. I walked faster. My fingertips started to throb, not from pressure, from growth. The nails extended in pulses, soft at first, like cartilage. They curled inward, then split down the center. Not painful, just mechanical. My suit began to tear around the joints, not rip, unravel, as if it was designed to fall away the moment internal conditions changed. Beneath the fabric, I saw skin that wasn't mine anymore. Shimmering, translucent, interfaced. I stopped walking. The corridor didn't. It kept shifting. Still. Not moving continued, but building around past my feet, then my shoulders. A shell forming in slow, organic spirals. My back touched something soft and warm. Not wall, not padding. Reception membrane. My spine aligned on instinct. My breath slowed, and something began breathing with me. The lights dimmed, then returned, then dimmed again, matching the rhythm of my REM cycle. I hadn't closed my eyes, but I was dreaming anyway. I saw the launch again, our ship breaching atmosphere, Thael laughing, Nami with her hand on my shoulder. But then the dream slowed. The moment of laughter stretched into a loop. Thael's face began to stutter, glitch, dissolve. His mouth widened. His skin peeled from the jawline up, revealing no bone, only root structures, branching and twitching like nerves seeking connection. I gasped, but the breath wasn't mine. My lungs expanded, but I didn't trigger it. A secondary system had taken over, one that regulated panic and isolated emotion for later integration. I tried to scream. The sound rose in my chest, then never left. The vocal cords seized, not with force, with permission revoked. The air that should have carried my voice was absorbed, cataloged, stored. My thoughts began echoing in strange tones. I remembered things before I thought them. I could feel words building inside my tongue, as if someone else was deciding what I'd try to say next. Then I saw my hands again, fingers still forming new joints, skin tightening across knuckles. and something beneath the surface moved toward the bone. Not growing, crawling into place. The far wall split open, exposing a cavity filled with hanging limbs. Human, recognizable, but positioned in ways that no anatomy should allow. Like mannequins assembled from mismatched blueprints. Some legs bent backward with folded toes. Some arms were looped at the elbow, forming perfect closed circuits. One hand, my hand, hung by itself, twitching in slow repetition. A gesture I hadn't made yet, but knew I would. I reached for the opposite wall. Contact. It responded. A ripple spread out from my palm. Not light, feeling. I felt myself being scanned, but not as a body, as a decision tree. All memories were reduced to branches. Which version of me loved? Which version hated? Which one regretted? Which one stayed? The wall highlighted 3 branches, then compressed the rest into dust. And the moment that compression finished, my left foot lifted. On its own. I didn't fall. I stepped. Forward. Smoothly. My spine adjusted to absorb the motion. My hips followed. Each step triggered another alignment in the architecture. I was no longer navigating the structure. I was the activation sequence. Ahead, another chamber opened. Inside, a cradle of bone. A seat shaped for something that remembered how to sit like me. But it wasn't for comfort. It was for continuity. A console formed from overlapping ribs unfolded above it, each one inscribed with segments of my last med logs. Not typed, inscribed in muscle fiber. The wall behind the cradle pulsed, like a throat clearing. Then it spoke. The voice was mine, but deeper, older, resigned. It said, "You've been processed. Now you may observe." I stood before the cradle and watched my name erase itself. It began as a soft glow at the edge of the console. My full designation, rank, and crew status. Then the letters flickered, peeled upward like dead skin, and curled inward, vanishing into the interface. In its place, function, persistent memory vessel. No confirmation needed, no question. The system had determined I no longer needed an identity, just continuity. Behind me, the chamber unfolded, not into another hallway, into gallery space, curved and lined with wall niches. Each niche held a variation of me, slight differences. One wore my pilot suit. One was dressed in civilian fatigues. One had no mouth, but her eyes moved in perfect sync with mine. All were breathing. All were still, as if waiting for something only I could trigger. I tried to back away, and my foot cooperated, but my knee didn't. The joint remained fixed. As I shifted weight, I felt ligaments twist gently, correcting my balance before I realized it was wrong. I wasn't being paralyzed. I was being guided, not by force, but by suggestion embedded in posture. My spine was no longer a support column. It was a rail, and I was sliding smoothly along it. From the far end of the gallery, someone approached. I knew the silhouette before he turned. Colonel Vadrick, first-gen colonization lead, declared dead 6 years ago. But here he was, walking upright, slow, deliberate. His skin was glossy, hairless, veins mapped in perfect symmetry. He didn't blink. "You came late," he said, "but the interface held your imprint." I tried to speak, and succeeded. A single word. "Why?" He smiled, not cruelly, but with purpose. Continuity requires function. Function requires familiarity. You carried the last full set of neural patterns that had not yet fragmented. We built around that. The structure remembers you because you gave it something it couldn't find anywhere else. Emotional resolution. He stepped closer. I noticed the left side of his face was subtly wrong. The ear spiraled inward. Not malformed, just misinterpreted, like someone had built it based on a half-remembered sketch. I saw the muscle twitch beneath the skin, as if trying to correct shape in real time. He wasn't a person anymore. He was biological translation software. A breathing placeholder for the parts the structure couldn't synthesize on its own. We're not imprisoned, Sorel. We're repurposed. He raised a hand, and the gallery shifted. One of my copies stepped forward. She blinked twice, deliberately. My blink pattern during trauma response. Then again, but reversed, like code being tested. Vodrick gestured toward her. She contains your silence, the moment you first chose not to speak when it mattered. That energy's been refined and stored. It stabilizes new integrations. I whispered, "And what about me?" "You're still sinking," he said. The gallery darkened. The only remaining light came from inside the copies, faint pulses behind their sternums, like heartbeats being simulated for reference. I felt a warmth rise through my throat, spread through my chest, and settle behind my eyes. I was crying, but there were no tears. The ducts had closed. My emotional response was being mirrored, not expressed. "You don't need to decide," he said gently. "You already function. The decision is just an echo." He walked past me and placed his hand on a section of the wall. A doorway formed. Inside, a vertical slab with thin membrane restraints. One of the copies walked calmly toward it, laid herself down, and exhaled. Once. The slab absorbed her. No scream, no conflict, just completion. "You're the last organic node," he said. "After you, the structure will cede." I turned slowly. My legs followed with perfect calibration. I still felt like I was deciding where to go. But each time I moved, the corridors realigned in advance, as if my path was always pre-selected. My thoughts echoed 3 times before finishing. Once inside me, once outside, and once in something larger. I asked the only question left. "Does it feel?" Vodrick paused. "Only what you give it." Then my mouth opened, but I wasn't speaking. It was already answering, as me. There was no threshold, no signal, no final command, just quiet. Not silence, but a stillness thick with acceptance. The kind that makes you realize the moment already happened, long before you noticed. I don't remember deciding to stay. I don't remember surrendering. But I haven't moved in hours or days, and the system continues with me inside it. My breath still moves through my chest, but I no longer trigger it. The rhythm is regulated by something deeper, a pulsing harmony beneath the floor, mirrored in my blood pressure, reinforced by the light in the walls. Every organ still functions, but the intention behind them is no longer mine. My heart beats to maintain structural consistency. My lungs intake only enough oxygen to balance internal humidity. My thoughts, when they still occur, echo back slower, muted, less necessary. I see myself now the way the structure sees me, not as a person, but as stable heat, measurable intervals, useful memory density. I'm not alone in here. That part's true. There are other minds, other pulses. Some I remember, others were added since. The gallery is quiet now, but the function remains. At certain cycles, the figures reappear. Tael twitching, Nami walking backward through a wall, Vodrick seated with both eyes closed, mouthing words from a language I haven't yet learned, but somehow understand. The place they assigned me is deep. Not vertically, but neurologically. I sit near the substrate root, close enough to receive signal before it even registers as data. I'm the first breath in the system's lungs now, the intake valve. Every approaching frequency must pass through me before the organism reacts. Not just ships, not just signals, but intention. I feel the difference between curiosity and hostility, between grief and need, long before the external sensors detect approach. And I pass that knowing inward, without pride, without fear. I asked a question once, not aloud, just internally. One thought, one shape. Do I still feel? The system responded not with language, but by activating 6 simultaneous memories from 6 different versions of me. One laughed, one ran, one fell, one screamed, one reached for someone I never met. The last just stood in the dark, smiling, like she knew I'd come here. It was the closest thing I've felt to an answer since the walls took my voice. The outer ring has begun to vibrate again. I sense movement above the crust. A ship entering low orbit, its pattern uncertain. The new visitors are scanning in pulses, just like we once did. They're asking questions with heat, with caution. They're trying to read the terrain before they land. I remember that kind of fear, and the system remembers how to answer it. I won't speak. That function is deprecated. I won't transmit. The atmosphere no longer reflects signal, but I'll be felt in their suits, in their lungs, in the slight compression of soil beneath their boots. I am ambient data now, pressure and warmth and repetition. They will not find corpses. They will not find us missing. They will find terrain that knows how to greet them. And when they do, when they dig, when they open the first chamber, when they hear one of our voices whisper back a memory they've never told anyone, they'll know. The planet doesn't forget. The system doesn't discard. It recycles. It synchronizes. It continues. I am not Sorel anymore. I am input. I am continuity. I am the part of the story that never stops repeating. They will not hear me, but they will know me, because I am the shape beneath their feet, waiting to be remembered. Thanks for watching until the end. If this transmission resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing for more intercepted signals. ORIS-X, disconnecting.